As a result of an airport closure at Washington National Airport, TWA Flight 514 was diverted to Dulles International Airport in suburban Virginia. While in contact with Washington Air Route Traffic Control Center, initial radio discussion provided maneuvering instructions to place Flight 514 on the final approach heading and at an altitude from which to begin the approach to Dulles. These instructions put the airplane on a heading to intercept the 300-degree radial of the Armel VOR and included an instruction to cross a point 25 miles northwest of the Armel VOR at 8,000 feet. The Armel VOR is located 6 nautical miles from Dulles Airport. Over the next few minutes, the crew discussed the VOR DME approach to Dulles, including items on the approach chart, and specifically discussed one intersection, Round Hill, which was depicted on the approach chart as the initial approach fix and was approximately 18 nautical miles from the airport. At 11:01 a.m., as the flight was descending from 11,000 feet to 8,000 feet, the controller issued instructions to continue the descent to 7,000 feet and to contact Dulles Approach Control. 26 seconds later, the crew contacted Dulles Approach Control and advised that the flight was passing through 10,000 feet for 7,000 feet. The controller replied with a clearance to proceed inbound to Armel and to expect a VOR DME approach to runway 12. At 11:04, the flight reported that they were level at 7,000 feet. 5 seconds later, the controller cleared the flight for the VOR DME approach to runway 12. The first officer who was flying the airplane then initiated a descent, followed by a comment from the captain that 1,800 feet was the minimum descent altitude. At 11:07, as the airplane was passing through approximately 3,000 feet and 5.5 miles from impact, the captain commented that the approach chart specified a minimum altitude of 3,400 feet until reaching Round Hill, the final approach fix. A discussion ensued, concluding that since the flight had been cleared for the approach, the minimum altitude did not apply, and 1,800 feet was the altitude to which the flight should descend. In fact, 3,400 feet was the correct minimum altitude for the approach until reaching the Round Hill intersection, 18 miles from the airport. Beginning at 11:08, the crew discussed the limited visibility, and that the ground visual contact was only intermittent. During this discussion, the sound of an altitude alert horn was recorded on the cockpit voice recorder. About 40 seconds later, the altitude alert horn sounded again, accompanied by crew discussion about winds and turbulence levels. Another altitude alert sounded at 11:09 and stopped 2 seconds later with a recording of impact sounds. Flight 514 had impacted Mount Weather at an altitude of approximately 1,700 feet just below the summit of the mountain and while still 25 nautical miles from the airport. The NTSB determined that the descent to 1,800 feet had occurred prior to the aircraft reaching a point in the approach where a minimum altitude of 1,800 feet was applicable, and placed primary responsibility for the accident on the pilots for having descended to an unsafe altitude.